Have we become animals? A furious indictment of the world's forgetting of genocidal violence. We live in an era when satellite images and survivor testimonies can follow a massacre around the globe in real time, when independent investigators can map destroyed villages and forensic teams can document mass graves. And yet we still shrug, change the channel, sign an online petition, then go back to business as usual. That shrug is the crime we commit together. The more Americans, Europeans, and others chase power, profit, and convenience, the more entire peoples vanish into silence, their deaths reduced to footnotes in policy briefings. This is not an accident. It is a moral collapse. Consider what has happened to 5 communities in recent years: Tigrayans, Palestinians in Gaza, Uyghurs, Rohingya, and Darfurians, and ask yourself, what did these people do that made them less worthy of protection than the investments, alliances, and political careers that keep the world quiet? Tigray, mass killing, starvation, and the diplomatic silence. In Ethiopia's Tigray region and in surrounding areas, reports documented organized massacres, forced starvation tactics, mass rape, and the destruction of civilian infrastructure. Independent investigations and scholarly reports have argued that the scale and pattern of the attacks are capable of meeting the legal threshold for genocide, and countless civilians were left to die as access for aid was blocked or weaponized. These are not distant rumors. They are systematic patterns recorded by credible investigators. And yet how often did you see sustained, uncompromising action from the great powers? Sanctions, yes, sometimes rhetorical condemnations, but no consistent political will to stop the killing or to prioritize civilian lives over strategic partnerships. When geopolitics assigns priorities, human beings lose. Gaza, annihilation framed as security, human life treated as collateral. The bombardment, siege, and mass displacement of Palestinians in Gaza have produced catastrophic civilian death tolls, destroyed hospitals and schools, and uprooted entire generations. United Nations human rights bodies and commissions have repeatedly warned that patterns of conduct, blockades, mass bombardment, and denial of lifelines risk qualifying as genocidal in effect, if not in explicit intent. Yet geopolitical alliances, arms relationships, and lobbying translate these warnings into delays, deflections, and 1,000 small excuses. The result is predictable. The suffering continues, while major actors argue over semantics. Xinjiang, cultural erasure, coercive population control, and denial. The mass detention, forced labor, coercive family planning policies, and reported forced sterilizations of Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslim minorities in Xinjiang are documented in reports from leading human rights organizations and government assessments. These policies have been described as aimed at breaking the cultural and familial continuity of an entire people. Powerful states have criticized and sanctioned, but global trade and strategic interests have kept many governments from turning condemnation into decisive pressure that would stop the abuses. The moral calculus that places markets above bodies is an indictment of our age. Rohingya, cleansing, displacement, and a slow, faltering justice. In 2017, Myanmar's security forces unleashed an operation that razed villages, burned homes, and forced more than 700,000 Rohingya into exile. Satellite imagery, eyewitness testimony, and UN-backed investigations described systematic destruction and ethnic cleansing. The Gambia's case at the International Court of Justice and ongoing investigative work demonstrate the gravity of what happened. And yet justice has been painfully slow and incomplete. Meanwhile, the Rohingya remain stateless, traumatized, and confined to camps with uncertain futures, while geopolitical convenience and indifference allow impunity to persist. Darfur, decades of suffering and perpetual displacement. Darfur was called a genocide in the mid-2000s. 2 decades on, the pattern of violence, mass displacement, and humanitarian catastrophe persists. The ICC has issued warrants and trials have moved forward in fits and starts, but the region has endured repeated waves of terror. Militia rape campaigns, scorched earth tactics, and now public health disasters that compound the violence. The international community's long memory kicks in for a headline, then fades when complex peacekeeping and long-term commitment are required. The people pay the price for our short attention spans. Why has the world forgotten? Because forgetting is profitable. The steps the world takes, or fails to take, are not neutral. When a country's strategic importance, trade relations, or military usefulness outweigh the moral imperative to stop mass killing, protection loses. Foreign ministries, defense portfolios, and corporate boards calculate risk and reward. Lives become variables in spreadsheets. Media cycles amplify that calculus. Sensational moments get attention. Slow violence does not. The net effect is structural. Some peoples receive the machinery of international protection. Others, especially marginalized and stateless groups, do not. Laws exist, but nations dodge their obligations. The Genocide Convention and international criminal justice institutions are not ornaments. They are obligations. Yet enforcement is inconsistent, politically distorted, and painfully slow. Courts can order provisional measures, investigators can publish damning evidence, and yet states that could impose meaningful pressure or stop arms transfer seldom do. The result is impunity that breeds repetition. A demand, not a prayer. What must change? Stop laundering indifference as complex geopolitics. When bodies pile up, semantics are a crime. States must act on credible findings immediately. Suspend arms transfers, impose targeted sanctions on those driving atrocities, and use diplomatic weight to secure humanitarian corridors. Protect evidence and fund accountability. Investigators and tribunals must be protected and funded. Cutting budgets for mechanisms that collect evidence is choosing impunity. The recent funding cuts to mechanisms documenting Myanmar are not budgetary blunders. They are moral choices. End the market of convenience approach. Trade and investment cannot be unconditional when they prop up regimes or corporate actors that enable genocide or crimes against humanity. Corporate boards and consumers must recognize complicity. Listen to survivors and protect refugees. Statelessness and blocked repatriation are tools of erasure. Resettlement, legal status, and reparations must be part of any serious response. Sustain attention beyond headlines. Civil society must refuse to let these crises be once-off outrages. Persistent advocacy, funding, and political pressure are the only long-term remedies. Final word. Shame is a resource. Let us use it. If you feel helpless, that is the correct first feeling. The next necessary feeling is rage that converts to action. Write to your representatives, pressure companies, support independent journalists and investigators, fund legal mechanisms, and refuse to normalize the calculus that treats human lives as collateral. If we do not demand accountability, now, we are not witnesses but accomplices. We are better than our silence. Prove it.